The night the snow began to fall sideways, Michael Carter realized how close he was to losing everything he had stitched together with tired hands and stubborn hope. He stood frozen at the edge of a marble hallway that smelled of roses and expensive candles, his coat still damp from the storm, his heart thudding with the weight of a choice he never wanted to make. Across the room, a woman who owned skyscrapers, news headlines, and half of Silicon Valley's attention was crumbling in a way no camera had ever captured. Her birthday lights flickered behind her like a fragile constellation, and the silence between them felt louder than any scream. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a second to show some love to this channel. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Michael had not planned to be there that night. He was a single father from a small town outside Seattle, a widower who had learned to fold grief into routine. His morning started before dawn, packing lunches for his 7-year-old son, Noah, and ended late at night fixing broken appliances for neighbors who couldn't afford new ones. Life had narrowed into a careful balance of bills, bedtime stories, and memories that still ached. When he took a temporary job as a private driver for a high-profile tech executive, he told himself it was just another gig, just another way to keep the lights on. Grace Whitmore was a name that lived in magazines, whispered in boardrooms, and trended whenever she breathed wrong. A self-made billionaire, she was known for her sharp mind, colder smile, and a schedule that left no room for softness. What the world didn't know was how empty her penthouse felt when the elevators stopped and the assistants went home. Birthdays had become corporate events for her, polished and loud, yet painfully hollow. This year, she had cancelled the gala, the speeches, the donors, and asked for something no one expected, a quiet dinner and a driver who didn't look at her like she was untouchable. Michael noticed the cracks long before that night. He saw how Grace lingered by windows, how her shoulders slumped when she thought no one was watching, how she flinched at laughter that wasn't hers. He never asked questions. He simply showed up early, drove carefully, and spoke to her like she was human. In return, she began to talk, not in confessions, but in fragments about childhood loneliness, about building an empire to outrun grief, about success that never hugged back. The challenge for Michael was the line he refused to cross. He needed the money, but he needed his integrity more. When his son fell sick, and the hospital bills piled up like an avalanche, Michael decided that this job could not last. He couldn't live in two worlds, one of glass towers and one of scraped knees and school pickups. He planned to resign quietly after Grace's birthday, leave without disrupting her orbit. Grace, however, had been counting the days to that evening with a strange, aching hope. Not for gifts or praise, but for the presence of someone who saw her without wanting anything. As the snowstorm trapped the city and guests cancelled one by one, the penthouse grew silent. Candles burned lower. The cake remained untouched. And Michael, coat in hand, stood ready to leave, believing his absence would go unnoticed. That was when everything shifted. Grace's carefully built composure finally cracked, not with tears at first, but with a stillness that felt like surrender. For the first time in decades, she was not the billionaire, not the icon, but a woman facing another year alone. Michael felt it in his chest, the same hollow he had carried since his wife passed away. Two strangers, shaped by loss, stood on opposite sides of wealth and poverty, yet met in the same quiet pain. Michael froze because staying meant risking his resolve, and leaving meant repeating a cruelty he knew too well. His struggle was not romantic fantasy but the real fear of hope. He had learned that attachment could be ripped away without warning. Grace's struggle was the terror that even with everything, she could still be left behind. In that suspended moment, something unspoken changed. Michael set his coat down. Grace exhaled like someone who had been holding her breath for years. The hours that followed were not dramatic on the surface. They shared a simple meal, snow pressing against the windows, the city muted and far away. No grand declarations were made. Instead, there was the quiet miracle of being seen. Grace listened as Michael spoke about Noah, about bedtime stories and pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. Michael listened as Grace admitted that she didn't know how to be ordinary anymore, and that scared her more than failure. Change did not arrive as a fairy tale. It arrived as choice. Grace offered Michael something unprecedented: flexibility, respect, and support without conditions. She arranged medical care for Noah quietly, without headlines or charity announcements. Michael, in return, allowed himself to stay, not as an employee bound by fear, but as a man choosing connection. Over time, the penthouse felt warmer. Laughter echoed where silence once lived. Grace learned to step away from the empire she built, even if only for a few hours, to celebrate small, human moments. Michael learned that accepting help did not make him weak. Grace learned that love was not something to be earned through achievement. Together, they navigated the messy, uneven road of healing, stumbling, correcting, and growing. The world outside still saw a billionaire and a driver. Inside, there was something far more fragile and powerful taking root. As Noah's health improved and seasons changed, Grace's birthdays transformed. Not into spectacles, but into gatherings filled with meaning. The snowstorm night became a quiet legend between them, a reminder of how close they came to walking past each other. Michael never forgot the feeling of freezing in that hallway, and Grace never forgot the relief of someone choosing to stay. If this story is stirring something in you, if it's reminding you of a moment when kindness changed your life or when you wished someone had stayed, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement tells us these stories matter. Before the ending, here's a special request. Comment below with the word "stay" if you believe that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is not walk away. In a world obsessed with power and speed, their story whispered a gentler truth. That sometimes, on the coldest nights, the greatest wealth is presence. That a single choice can thaw years of loneliness. And that when someone says don't go, especially on a birthday, they might really be saying please see me, please stay, please choose love.